Alright, in this lecture, we're going to be talking about how to rough in perspective. So there's going to be a lot of times where you don't actually want to just draw the perspective lines and the vanishing points. You don't either have time for it, or it's just a quick sketch, or sometimes it's just that those vanishing points are so far off your canvas that it's not even worth drawing them. So let me give you an example. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a new layer so we're not drawing on our background. Let's say, for example, that our vanishing point is so far off the canvas that you can't even really see a difference between lines in your canvas. So what I mean by this is basically have a line that's angled like that and it's going off towards a vanishing point in that direction. And let's say that if we come up a little bit further, if our vanishing point was on the page, let's say if the vanishing point was right here, then a line up here would be angled like that back towards our vanishing point. But if this vanishing point is way far off the page, so let's go ahead and undo that. Let's say that the vanishing point is so far off the page that rather than angling downwards, it's just at the same exact angle, or at least it appears to be at the same exact angle. And those are just going off just way far off the page. It could be 20 feet off the page. It could be 100 feet off. It could be so far out that it's not worth drawing it, and it's almost impossible to really draw that. So what we do is we basically draw in what's called isometric type of perspective, which is where all the lines basically just follow the same exact angle. And so you can see if we were to draw any type of line here, we just want them all to be about at that same angle. And we could turn these all into cubes now. And if we are doing 2-point perspective, we want to do the same thing for the other side. So all these angles need to basically look exactly the same. And then we can go ahead and do the top surfaces. So this angle right here needs to match that angle. So all of them that are going in that same direction, they all need to match the same angle. Same with this side. So this angle right here needs to match that angle, and it's all the same. All these angles are the same. And there we go. We just roughed in some simple cube perspective. And this isn't very clean, but this is usually used more for sketching. Another place where you might want to use this is if you're doing something, let's say, like an animal. If you're sketching something that's more organic, you're going to just want to rough in the perspective. You don't want to actually go in there and add in vanishing points and stuff like that, because typically if you're doing an image of an animal, it's usually a close-up of some sort, and the vanishing points are so far off the canvas that you're not even really going to see them. You're not going to have very extreme perspective. So we can just block it out like this. Let's say that we wanted to block it out into the basic head shape, so we can just start with a cube like this. And for right now, we're just sticking to 1-point perspective. I mean, 2-point perspective, sorry. So all these lines are just going to go straight up and down. So we just draw a cube with all the angles matching. So all the ones going in that direction are matching, and all the ones going in this direction are matching. All right, and then what we can do is we can go ahead and we can add like a snout or something like that. So let's go ahead and let's draw another rectangular cube coming off of this. So I'll go ahead and just mark out where the edges of that are going to be first, and then we can create the top of it. And then we can go ahead and draw the same angle as that right there. We're gonna go ahead and continue to line it off like that. Same with right there. And then we can go ahead and connect like that with the same angle. Come straight down for these edges. And then bring that across at that same angle as that one. And then let's go in there. We can just go ahead and quickly erase so that we can see that this cube is in front of the other. And then we have a basic blocked out shape that's in pretty good perspective. And we can use this as a guide to draw whatever animal it is. So if we want the head to be round, we can go ahead and just make sure that the roundness of the shape is staying within this cube. And maybe we can just make the back round like that. And then maybe the front surface for the brow, maybe it comes down like this. And we get kind of a flat front right there. Like that. We can round it out down here as well. And then we can go ahead and erase these guidelines of the cube, because we don't need them anymore. Alright, perfect. So there we have some roughed in perspective for the basic geometric forms of some sort of an animal head. If we wanted to, we could like draw out here, we could draw a nose, stuff like that. But anyways, you can see by how using this isometric version of perspective, where all the lines match the same angle the whole way, it doesn't matter how high you go up the page or how low you go, they basically stay the same the whole entire time. Now, sometimes you don't want to do this. Sometimes when you're roughing in perspective, you do actually want to have vanishing points. But let's say that we're doing a sketch for some sort of an environment design with buildings and stuff like that, and we don't want to take the time to do all the perspective. We're not doing the final drawing or the final painting yet. We just want to sketch that out really quickly and just eyeball the perspective. So the way we could do this is, let's say we're doing some sort of a building. So we can just establish where the corner of that building is, and then we can just decide that somewhere going off in that direction is where one vanishing point is, and then we can draw this one angling inwards like that. And we're just basically eyeballing it. We don't really know where those vanishing points are exactly. We just know that up here it's going to angle downwards, and it's going to angle downwards there. And so by establishing this, we can tell that there's probably a horizon line somewhere right about in here, just a straight horizon line. And we also know that the higher up we go, the more angled these are going to become. And the lower we go, the more angled these are going to become. And we can just start sketching in some simple blocked in perspective. So let's just go ahead and start doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this into some sort of a building. Maybe we'll do a roof line up here. And then I can go ahead and draw an X right here. That's how we always find the center of a rectangular shape in perspective. It was, we draw a line from that corner to this corner, and then we can figure out where the middle of that is, because it'll be right where those lines cross. And we can come straight up from there, just a straight line. And that way we know where the center of our roof is going to be, because the distance from here and the distance from here to here, this is going to be a little bit wider right there. And so that's why it's important to make sure that we figure out where the center of that is, because it's going to kind of be different on both sides. And that roof line is actually way too high. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw a line like this and just bring it down a little bit, make it a little bit less angled. And then I can connect from that corner to there, same from there to there. And I can do the same thing back here, just following this same angle right there. Now I'm already starting to get what looks like a house. And go ahead and draw in the sidewalk. Now keep in mind that this isn't our official drawing. This is just a sketch. So this is something that you might sketch out, get all your details in there, all your set dressing, whatever it is that you need. And then you could come back and actually do a drawing on top of this and actually use vanishing points and make sure that you're drawing it correctly. We could have a fence coming off of this. Something like that. We could add some windows in here. So all of these lines that are going up and down, they're just going to stay nice and straight and vertical. But all these lines, we want to make sure that we're kind of following the angle of the perspective. Can have this roof extend down a little bit further by just drawing another line like that, extending it down just so it has a little overhang. To add some thickness to it as well. We can just use our eraser and start erasing some of this out too. We don't need these guidelines anymore. And maybe we want something protruding off this a little bit more. So maybe this doorway, we want it to kind of be its own box kind of protruding out. So we can go ahead and sketch that out. So I'll start by drawing the base, and I'll just come straight up like this. And then we can see that we need to follow kind of these angles up here, like that. And just another straight line like that. Connect this right there. This line, it needs to be following back to whatever vanishing point is out there. And then let's go ahead and let's create some sort of overhang tin roof looking thing right here. Then we can go ahead and draw on our door. Say we want to add some sort of a little box here. Maybe it's an electrical box or something like that. We can add some lines on the roof. Maybe add some lines right here as well. We can even add, let's say that this is some sidewalk. Let's go ahead and let's add some lines onto that sidewalk. Some perspective lines just to help it. Some going in this direction as well. Like that. And we can even go ahead and curve this corner out like this. Then I'll go ahead and erase that out. And then we'll go ahead and we'll just kind of dip this shape down, because usually in the corner of curbs you get that little dip down. I guess that probably depends on where you are in the world, but let's just add one in, something like that. And we want to make sure that we add in these cracks in the sidewalk. We want to add those in on the sides as well. Could even add in some pots or something like that, some plants. Those don't have to be in perfect perspective. We're just using this to sketch out the idea, but we want to make sure that it's in relatively good perspective, because we're gonna draw on top of a sketch like this. Maybe we'll add some wood planks on this part right here. We can go ahead and erase some of these parts out so it doesn't look transparent. Go ahead and erase this line up here because we never used it. We could add some sort of a spire up here if we wanted to. Maybe do one on the other side as well. Just something like that. Nice and simple. Alright, perfect. So we just roughed out a drawing with some perspective, and this doesn't use the isometric perspective like we had before. So if I turn this layer back on, the difference between these two types of perspective rough-ins is that this one uses lines that are all at the same angle. So it doesn't matter where you are on your page, where you are in height or across your page, they're all going to be at the same angle. And same thing for the other vanishing point. All of them are going to be on the same angle all the way down. Now also, I just want to point out that you can change this angle. So they can be very angled like this, or it can be more flat like this. It's really up to you. Then remember that with this type of roughing in perspective, that these actually have vanishing points. So you need to imagine, basically, based off the knowledge that we have about vanishing points, we need to imagine that there's a vanishing point somewhere off out here, or maybe even further. And so we need to make sure that wherever our horizon line is, so let's say our horizon line is about right there, that's where lines will go straight and flat. But as we get further away from that, they need to become more and more angled. And as they get higher up, they need to become more and more angled as well. So we're just keeping that in mind. Now, because we're roughing it in, it's never going to be perfect, and that's not the point of roughing it in. The point is just to make sure that it's pretty close, but it's mostly just to get those sketches done and get some of that detail blocked in there. All right, that brings us to the end of this lecture. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.